So it came into my mind that I needed a pair of cowboy boots. Now, I've had cowboy boots before. In fact, I used to have two pair. But my son absconded with one off to college, and I sent the other to my nephew for a cowboy-themed wedding he was going to. And suddenly I had no cowboy boots. And I like cowboy boots. I mean, they're comfortable. I hadn't worn them for a long time. Even when I had them, I didn't wear them often. I don't ride a horse. I mean, I used to ride a horse, but we sold the horse in 5th grade. Nonetheless, it was time to get another pair of cowboy boots. So I started to research cowboy boots online, which means I will forever get pop-up ads for cowboy boots and other Western accoutrements, it turns out. Big belt buckles, I may show up in one. But I found a pair made in Mexico with rubber soles, which makes them practical for my life in Seattle. So I bought a pair, and then I waited, and I waited. And as I waited, the anticipation built. I'm 56 years old, and I was waiting for those cowboy boots like I used to wait for Christmas morning. It's a little embarrassing to admit, especially since there is no great ending to this story. But we will soldier on. Anyway, I finally get an email from UPS that says the boots are going to arrive in 3 days. I'm like, 3 days? They came on Veterans Day, which happened to be a day when my wife was home from work. And she brought the boots into the house and said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, just some shoes." My wife doesn't sort of picture me as a cowboy, incidentally. Nor do I, though I might be. You can't claim to not be a cowboy kind of guy and have cowboy boots. It's like being a Christian in Seattle. It's hard to claim non-affiliation and still go to church. We can try. We can say, well, we go because we like the music. Or we go because it's just the perfect place to space out for 20 minutes. Or because we get to see people outside of our demographic category. Or because we like the music. Did I say that? Oh, okay. Heck, it's probably more common to run across somebody in cowboy boots in this city than it is someone who proclaims to be a Christian. Anyway, back to the boots. So I take the boots and I sneak up to my study and I take them out and I try to put them on, and it turns out they're too small. And it's not that they're a little too small, they're so too small that I can't get my foot in at all, and as I'm trying to put my foot in, I get a cramp in my calf that hurts for 2 days. I'm better now, though. Anyway, so I go online, and I find the form on the site to return the boots, and I send them back in exchange for a bigger pair. And then I had to wait again, and wait. Hope, expectation, anticipation. Finally, those boots arrive. Longing fulfilled. But what happened next is what always happens when I mislocate longing. It's like the fig tree story that we encounter in the Gospel of Mark today. The boots came, I put them on, they're almost perfect. One foot fit better than the other, but as I slipped them on, the anticipation was gone. Hope left the room when the package arrived. And while I now have a rubber-soled pair of cowboy boots, which is fine, the longing that triggered the impulse to buy those boots in the first place was not eliminated by their presence. You know what I mean? It's like Thomas Aquinas said, 13th century theologian. Gave it a Latin name, which makes it sound better. Desiderium visionis Dei, which is, the soul has an ardent longing to see God, and this is its principal purpose for existence. So Aquinas claims, and I believe, that hardwired within every single soul is this desire to be completely subsumed by God, right? The God that loves us, the God that draws us towards God's very self. One of my new favorite theologians is a French theologian who died in 1955. You might be able to guess who it is. Teilhard de Chardin. He was a scientist, paleontologist to be exact, and it seems now a prophetic voice in the age of the internet and artificial intelligence and the second axial age, which you won't hear about at all today, but a lot more about in days to come. Anyway, in one of Teilhard's most influential books, The Phenomena of Man, he introduces this idea called point omega, which represents a place out here in the future, actually out here at the very end of time, hence the name Omega, in which God is drawing all things to God's self, us, specifically. This drawing experience, right? This drawing of God is experienced through our longings, right? Like a moth to a lamp, like a skipping stone to the bottom of a pond. And as a scientist, Teilhard believed that evolution is the process through which all things are moving toward full unity with one another, which is also full union with God, hence point omega. And this evolution has a feeling. It has a feeling of anticipation, a feeling of longing. It is a feeling that something is missing, revealing an untethered yearning in each one of us. You with me? The Christmas season capitalizes on this yearning, literally. Right? The economics of Christmas has figured out the desiderium visionus without the day. Right? Desire and longing without God will get you cowboy boots, and that's not bad. It's just not the point. And it will certainly not fulfill the principal purpose of life. Advent then provides the corollary to this consumer culture of Christmas, designed to return our attention to the soul's ardent longing to be with God. The music we sing in the season of Advent powerfully points to this reality. Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sins, release us. Let us find our rest in thee. You'll hear that later. Jesus is the landing pad for this longing. He is hope fulfilled as the person through whom our union with God can be practically played out. His name makes the point, Emmanuel. Right? Emmanuel, God with us. O come, Emmanuel. Another Advent song that powerfully points to the soul's longing for God. Then Jesus arrives. And suddenly our soul has a pilgrimage partner that is both here and yet to come, both present and point omega. So you're wondering, what does any of that have to do with a fig tree? Is that what you're wondering? I know it was. It's a desolate image, actually, if you think about the fig tree and how Jesus represents it. In the Gospel of Matthew, he curses it. You may remember that odd scene, so it bears no fruit. But you have to remember that when the people that Jesus is talking to hear him make an obscure reference, or at least obscure to us, their minds immediately link to another place in the Bible. They know the Bible. It is their primary book. Imagine if you only had one book in your entire life, no TikTok, no Instagram, no printing press, no TV, one book, the Bible. When somebody says something like the fig tree, your mind immediately jumps to the minor prophet Habakkuk. Am I right? Give me an amen to that. Amen to Habakkuk. Yep, chapter 3, verse 17, and I'll quote it for you. Unless you just want to quote it back to me. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and no fruit is on its vine, though the produce of the olive fails, and the field yields no food, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will exult in the God of my salvation. Habakkuk's insight is that longing for a fig or an olive may satiate a moment, but never provide salvation for the soul. Longing remains, as St. Augustine of Hippo reminds us, until we rest in God. In the text that Pam read this morning, it talks about this generation will not pass away. And the generation that Jesus is talking about is you. It's you and I. It's all of us. It's us, even the folks that join us online. He is speaking to us. We are meant to discover the limitations of the created realm, this realm of stuff and tasks. Jesus reminds us that heaven and earth will pass away, that the created realm will falter and fail over and over and over again in satisfying the hardwired longings of our souls. There is no desiderium visionis without the day. Heaven and earth are created realms. Recall the very first line in the Bible. That one you probably can quote. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, remember this one? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. They were spoken into being, created by the Word. And we are reminded of that in today's gospel. And the Word will not pass away. The Word, in fact, becomes flesh. And we know Him by name, Jesus. He's the one we can walk with. He's the one we can talk with. The one capable of untethering us from a world that is jammed with tasks and stuff. It is upon Him that we cast our hopes and our longing and expectations. And so seek Him out. Right? Prepare your hearts. Unleash that longing. Advent, this season, is designed for this seeking. It is organized to tweak our yearnings and to fire our anticipation. So sit in that anticipation. Sit in it, appreciate it, soak it up, experience it. Let Advent help. For me, the music does so. And reading prayers and psalms from hour by hour. And for taking long walks and for lighting the Advent wreath that I'm going to make in the Great Hall after this service. By going to church. And by slowing down. And by carving out sacred silence in the midst of the obligations and the algorithms of cultural Christmas. So let your longing fall upon the God that made you, the God that knows you, the God that loves you, the God that came to be present with you, whose name is Emmanuel, God with us, the God with a name, a word, a God that is the point and the purpose, a God that can satisfy and sanctify our souls.